Welcome to the Wealth Guide podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Julian Mattatia, General Manager of Sales and Marketing for the MoneyQuest Group, and Paul Wright, National Growth Manager for the MoneyQuest Group, joining us. Julian will share his expertise on expanding the MoneyQuest network across Australia, focusing on the strategies that have driven business growth and the challenges new industry professionals face when transitioning to mortgage broking. We'll also explore the benefits of working with financial planners, the rising market share of mortgage brokers, and Julian's thoughts on the future of the industry. Paul, with his extensive background in mortgage broking and business coaching, will dive into his goals as National Growth Manager and how his experience has shaped his approach to supporting MoneyQuest members. He'll also share insights into key lessons from his $1 billion in paid settlements, professional development initiatives, and the future direction of mortgage broking in today's economic climate. This episode sure promises valuable insights for anyone in the mortgage broking space or those looking to understand the industry better. So without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. So Julian, Paul, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Julian, I was hoping we could start with you. Now, MoneyQuest have had significant success recently in expanding the MoneyQuest brand nationally. I was hoping you could share some of the strategies that you've used to expand those, particularly fostering that business growth mindset as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's welcome to be here. We have had an interesting growth, I guess, over the last 7 years, and different strategies applied. So we have organic growth. That's where we focus on our existing members and getting their businesses to grow. And you'll hear from Paul how we do that. We've looked at acquiring businesses. So, you've got acquisitions, which is really, really important for us. So right culturally, in terms of the acquisitions, and we've made a number of those and they've worked very, very well. And then we have a sales team that also assists with organic growth. So talking to, new to industry, bankers, brokers, and those three strategies essentially have seen our business grow and grow quite successfully.
Yeah, particularly with the organic growth, I wanted to ask, what is the value add that you provide to members that are looking to come on and on board with MoneyQuest in particular?
Great question. So we have a wonderful culture within our organisation, and we have a particular, operating rhythm that we stick to, and we engage our members very, very regularly, and education is key. So our CEO runs a fortnightly business coaching program. Now, it's completely opt-in, but it enables the members to learn from a very, very experienced person in business who's done multiple acquisitions, been a banker, been in aggregation, been on franchising, talking about business and sharing with peers. So our members absolutely love that. We run a fortnightly business development workshop, which is all about what people need to do to grow. Paul runs programs regularly. We have a monthly compliance training session. We have monthly lender sessions. So education is really, really important. And, you've got to remember, a lot of brokers, they work from home. We do have big businesses that have, shop fronts or offices, but those that are working from home, having that interaction on a regular basis with their peers is really, really, really important. So yes, they learn from us, but guess what? They learn a lot from their peers too, which is really important.
I feel that's important for especially the sort of one-man band that works from home and the small enterprises. They really want that support structure. They want that mentorship, and they want the tools to be able to operate effectively as well. So I really feel that's important. But maybe for you, Paul, as National Growth Manager, what are the primary goals for expanding the group for you?
The primary goals really relate to the existing members, but also the new members that come along. So with the existing members, it's really focusing on them nurturing their database to make sure they look after those clients and obviously gain additional referrals. With new members that we acquire, both from the franchising and aggregation side, it's really providing them with a platform that they are successful sooner. And I think the way we do that is, provide the support like what Julian was mentioning. I think that being in touch with them on a regular basis and having access to a very experienced and senior team. So, we're a fairly, flat management structure, and our members have access to people like myself who have, been on the tools and can provide insights and, on what works and what doesn't. And I think, from a growth perspective, the other things that we help them with is around, acquisitions, not just obviously for our aggregation, but from a member point of view, buying loan books, evaluating whether that's something that they should do, because obviously that's a way to grow their business in a faster way.
And you've almost moved on to my next question. I wanted to ask, you've got a big background in mortgage broking yourself. Having that background, how do you feel that helps in coaching and mentoring and even assessing those loan books that you're looking to purchase as well?
I think it helps immensely. I think that I can, because I've actually been in the shoes of our members, where I've obviously built a business from scratch, and made a lot of mistakes along the way. So when members come to me with questions and things around how to build their business, I can share what worked and what didn't. And I think that plays a key part in the coaching that I do. And a lot of the programs that we've developed have come from what I learned and actually implemented in my own business.
And how, if any, does the relationship between financial planning and mortgage broking help with that growth mindset, particularly for some of these mortgage brokers that are relatively new, they're onboarding into MoneyQuest and they want to start growing their business? How do you see them playing off between financial planners and mortgage brokers to help the client and grow their business?
Yeah, I see financial planning and planners themselves as a real important part for a broker's business, because I see for a broker to move from what I call just being a standard broker to be that trusted advisor, they need to have a team. And when I say a team, I'm not talking about their staff. That yes, they need to obviously people to support them doing the work, but they also need a team of other industry professionals to support their clients. And I know that in our business, and I was very fortunate, I actually worked within a business that had a financial planning practice for 5 years. So I got to see how a financial planning business worked. And what I learned a lot about that. And what I learned, there was a couple of things. So one was around the fact that from a broker's point of view, making sure you assist your clients protect themselves, such as, making sure that they've got cover in place if one of the parties fall ill, pass away. I had 3 clients that suffered cancer. I had a client that passed away during our business. So we saw the impact that had, but I also saw the impact that for the ones that had sought advice and had cover in place, how much easier that made it for them from a financial perspective. And that was obviously through us referring them across to a financial planner.
And we see that on a daily basis. Like you're going through an emotional stress as it is, you're adding a layer of financial burden on top of that, it becomes quite significant.
Fortunately and unfortunately, we've seen a few scenarios where financial planners rather have been able to make the best of a bad situation. So, in some cases where a client has been diagnosed with an illness or something along those, they're injured or total permanent disability, they've then gone on to make a claim that's protected their assets and their family from, any of the financial burdens, but also emotional burden as well, because you've got peace of mind that you can either rehabilitate yourself or you can go through whatever treatment without having to worry about those financial burdens as well. I wanted to touch on one of the things that you said around building a team around the client as well, because we talk about it a lot from a financial planning perspective. Or how important do you feel clients need to consider, or even mortgage brokers and financial planners need to work together to place a team of financial service professionals around the client?
I think it's quite important, Gianni. Look, I think to Paul's point previously, look, the transactional broking, unfortunately, I feel like is dead. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of transactional brokers. You can just go from one loan after another loan. But where you're really adding a value to a client's situation is when you're sort of looking from a holistic point of view to go, Mr. Client, you're about to go through certain different life stages. I think it's important for you to consider perhaps a little bit of tax planning. And I know your objective is to sort of add another property. How does that look like? What savings will it have for you in a tax perspective? Conversation with a client. The client's not only become stickier, but also clients appreciate the fact that you've addressed their goals and objectives for the future. You haven't moved on from just taking on one loan to go to another loan.
100%. Maybe Julian, for you, especially as you're onboarding more practices and mortgage brokers as well, what benefits do you sort of feel mortgage brokers have working with a financial planner? Because ultimately, it's like taking your car to the mechanic. You really don't know, or you might have half an idea about how the car works, but you don't know what's under the hood at the end of the day. So how do you feel that mortgage broker, financial planner relationship works to benefit the mortgage mortgage broker and their client?
Well, it should be symbiotic. I mean, the reality is a mortgage broker should be working with a financial planner and ensuring that their customers are looked after long term. And you know, it's interesting. I would say Australia is very underinsured. You probably agree. And, you know, all the regulatory changes that, you know, they've made it harder, especially for mums and dads. So it's really important, especially on the debt piece that Paul mentioned earlier, you know, at the most basic level, they've got debt protection in place, right? Should something tragic happen. But a broker should be thinking more holistically and working with an advisor, a financial planner, to help wealth strategies long term. And then that customer becomes a customer for life. And the reality is, when they have an incredible experience, guess what? Referrals start to come for both parties.
Yeah, it's all about that relationship. And if anything, it should be symbiotic. They should be working together ultimately to place the client's goals at the forefront of every conversation as well. Now, what, if any, maybe to step back, I wanted to go through some of the benefits as a result of coming onto MoneyQuest as well. Now, MoneyQuest offers a couple of different pathways. I was hoping you could describe those pathways and the benefits of each.
Certainly. So I guess if we talk about ourselves now as the MoneyQuest Group, we have a number of businesses that operate within, and there are two primary pathways. And we have MoneyQuest, which is a national mortgage broking franchise network. And then we have our aggregation businesses where people can trade under their own brands. So we've got two clear pathways. Some people, they love to build their own brand, do website design, content writing, work with, you know, and outsource. There's a lot of work involved in that, but some people love to go down that pathway. So we have that option for them. On the alternate, we've, you know, got bankers that come out and they really don't want to get involved in branding and graphic design and content writing and systems and processes. They want it there ready for them. So we clearly have those two pathways. You know, the benefits of both, I guess, the benefits of having a turnkey business solution with MoneyQuest franchise is you literally come in, it's fully operational, systems, processes, professional day one. On the negative, like you mentioned pros and cons, we have a social media team. They build the digital footprint for our MoneyQuest franchise owners, but we encourage our members to also post themselves. They've got full access to their accounts. Now, you know, we do have a couple of franchise owners that like to go on towards the edge. You know, they might like to swear in their social media and so forth. Now, under a franchise, it doesn't really work, right? Because, you know, we've got to protect the brand. So there can be some restrictions. Whereas obviously if you're operating under your own brand, you know, you can do what you want with your social media because it reflects on them under their own brand. But on the flip side, there's a lot of work to be done, you know, and that can detract from actually writing deals and building referral networks.
Yeah, 100%. I feel there's a couple of people, those that are more creative or those within an established brand, but they just want the sort of systems that they can rely upon to maybe place more effort into customer-facing activities, if anything.
Yep.
So like they might be more inclined to take the branded approach, whereas the other white label approach might be somebody that is keen on content marketing
100%.
and doesn't want to keep their podcast PG.
Absolutely.
Paul, I wanted to ask, you've recently passed a milestone, $1 billion in settlements. What lessons, if any, do you have for those, you know, not all of it, but if any, what lessons have come out of that you can then pass on to your network?
Yeah, there's many. I think, you know, when I started the journey of getting into broking, that wasn't obviously the goal at the time, but it's something I'm very proud of, and it obviously took a lot of hard work. So first and foremost, be prepared. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You know, that's definitely something that I think sometimes people come into industries thinking that they can make it work just working 9-to-5. But I think that's something that I've learned, that you've just got to do a little bit more and be prepared to do things that others are not prepared to do. It comes down to, I think, consistency and discipline. You know, Julian and I actually were talking a little bit earlier just around from a business perspective, what are the key fundamentals of a business? And the reality is that the brokers need to learn to be really good at attracting clients, converting those clients, and then retaining those clients. You know, so before you start doing the fancy stuff, you know, I think it's getting those fundamentals right. And so how do you do that? You know, systems, processes. So using technology, you know, I say to people regularly that you need to be high touch, but also high tech. You know, so you need to use the technology to your advantage so that it obviously assists your clients. It helps your staff, makes your business more effective, but you don't want the technology to take over the entire business, because we are in a personal services business and people are coming to you as a broker for that advice. And I think that's one of the big things that you need to do to be successful is to make sure that you continue to educate yourself. So professional development to me is a really important piece. I was very focused on ensuring that we're helping our clients get in a better financial position, creating wealth essentially. And I actually became a qualified property investment advisor for that reason, not to practice in that area, but just to give myself some more credibility and also being an investor myself, I could share my learnings with my clients, which enabled them to start building their own portfolios and have the similar successes that we had.
Yeah, and there's a massive mentorship aspect to that. I wanted to touch on a couple of points that you had, not only the mentorship aspect, but the tools and systems that you have in place as well. Because I feel particularly for a newbie that's entering the broking environment, they might not have an understanding or they might not have the experience to know what systems to put in place as well. So to step into that ready-made environment is a massive value add as well. And that's only something you can get from somebody like yourself who's had that experience, like $1 billion in settlements as well. And we were talking about this before a little bit, to have those tools in place, because ultimately the client wants that value add, which is the amount of mortgage broking facing time or financial service professional facing time, because they have a rapport with you. You're their financial educator. And as a result, you need to have those tools in place to reduce the amount of admin that you do and maximize the amount of customer facing time as well. Today's episode of the Wealth Guide podcast is proudly sponsored by Ryker Capital. In a world full of financial uncertainties, Ryker Capital understand the importance of safeguarding your lifestyle and the well-being of your loved ones. That's why we're committed to providing you with personally tailored insurance plans and financial advice that aligns with your unique needs and goals. Ryker Capital is your guide in the complex world of superannuation and retirement planning. Our team of experts are dedicated to helping you navigate these complexities with ease and confidence. We're here to empower you with the knowledge and strategies you need to build wealth and secure your future. At Ryker Capital, we offer a comprehensive range of services designed to optimize your superannuation. We work closely with you to determine the best contribution strategy, regularly review your superannuation fund, set achievable financial goals. Our coaching and consulting services ensure your financial plan stays on track with regular reviews to adjust to your changing circumstances and aspirations. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today with Ryker Capital. Contact us for an obligation-free discussion about your financial plan by calling us on 1300 179 537. Let us help you secure your finances because you deserve it. Ryker Capital, your trusted partner in financial success. Maybe Ray, from your perspective as well, what are we talked a little bit about continual professional development. What are the aspects of mentorship and continual professional development that the relationship between a financial planner and a mortgage broker has? How does a financial planner, help educate the mortgage broker to educate their clients in turn?
So I think it's a multifaceted role really, and it's a continuously ongoing professional development role. Because whenever you're sort of working with a broker, especially a new broker coming into the market, firstly, it's all about the mindset. It's about making sure that you're sort of going from for me as an example, going from a bank world, then all of a sudden shifting myself to self-employed, it's a different world. You're just not prepared for it, no matter what anyone tells you. So I think the mindset part is very important. Speaking to people who have done it really well, someone like Paul, doing a bit of business development, doing a bit of market research to make sure that what space you're going to play at, what does your community look like that you're going to be sort of advocating to, a bit of regulatory compliance, getting your head around the compliance and the product rules around different products. And then it would be the financial management side. How do you manage your cash flow? And I think I would say to the brokers, start with financial planning for yourself first. I think that'd be the key aspect. You do yourself a favor, you do yourself a financial planning plan to go, how are you going to do this business? How are you going to grow your business? Where are you going to attract customers?
And can I say, it's interesting you mentioned that. I would say most people are undercapitalized when they start their businesses. And that's the one thing we encourage is make sure you understand your cash flow. And if you don't have financial reserves, you have a spouse that can support you through that period, because the last thing you want to do is start a business and be desperate, right? And because everyone can smell it. Your clients will pick it up. It's not healthy. So that you're spot on 100%.
And also the other part that I've sort of seen is make sure you choose the aggregator properly. Julian, you take me for drinks after.
No, exactly right. I look at, when someone's doing research for an aggregator, you're trying to find a business partner. right? And so, and everyone's different. They want different needs. Some people might be extremely experienced, so they don't necessarily need guidance from the aggregator, from a lender accreditations and that sort of thing. But, if someone wants to really grow their business and they want to buy, they want to spend $7.5 million to purchase a loan book, well, you want to make sure that when you're doing that sort of thing, your aggregation partner can help evaluate the business, review the contracts. There's all these little 1%ers that make a big difference. So you're right, do your research.
And obviously for us, as a sponsor level, I think for us, it was key thing with the relationship and the fact that we were able to work with someone like Julian, Simon and Michael Russell there, who are the owners of the business, and brokers felt the same way, that you're actually there working with the business owners who are there to support you. I think that was a key driver there.
Yeah, 100%. Because ultimately you want an aggregator who has a vested interest in your success at the end of the day. So
it's not a number.
Aligning with somebody who has your best interest at heart at the end of the day. And Julian, I wanted to ask, we've seen a rise in the amount of people going towards mortgage brokers as well. It's more than 70% nowadays. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you feel that people are going to mortgage brokers more than traditional bank lenders, if anything?
Well, there's a few reasons. The reality is a mortgage broker has access to 30 plus lenders on their panel. So they can truly provide an incredible comparison service advice to their customers. Obviously, I'm not taking away from bankers, but the reality is if a customer goes to a bank, they can only talk about one product set, that bank. So consumers they've spoken in volume, over 70%, as you mentioned, of all residential lending going through the broker channel, and it's because the choices they have through brokers and the level of service they provide. That's fundamental. What would you say, Paul?
I would add that if you look at bankers versus brokers today, the reason that we're at the level that we are is that brokers on average are far more experienced. So along with those things that Julian talked about, having someone who's experienced in their craft and having such a great level of choice, that advice piece is going to be obviously really important. And as I said, I say to people around the difference between, going to a broker versus a bank is that a broker sells a service where a banker sells a product. And I think that's a really important thing. And the other thing from a broking perspective, because most brokers obviously are self-employed, they've got a vested interest to look after that client. And the great thing is that, that broker will remain in that person's journey for life, potentially, for many, many years, where the banker, and I can say this, I worked in the bank, if anyone's good at banking, they get promoted. So they may deal with the client for one transaction, but they move on to somewhere else, whether that be internally within the lending institution or whether it be externally because they become a broker because they see the opportunity that's available.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about the vested interest that a mortgage broker has with their aggregator, but there's also a vested interest in the client with the mortgage broker as well, because ultimately a good mortgage broker will help a client achieve their goals, not just place them into debt, but they'll help them achieve their goals and then work with them as their goals and lifestyle changes over time. So that's when you get that client retention piece, because they won't just, here's a home loan, walk away, I'll never see you again. It'll be like, all right, what's your next goal? How can I help you meet that? And that's part of the conversation as well when you get the financial planner involved. Yeah. And then we start to, okay, well, what other goals do you have that we can help you with as well? How does that conversation go when you start to talk about goals, Ray, especially between a mortgage broker, financial planner and client?
So I think the way we sort of work is we put client at the center of everything we do. So essentially from a broker, and I'll use Ben as an example, Ben Tran. Whenever we sort of speak about a client situation, we go, well, this is my client situation, Ray. What his goals and objectives are to sort of add another property in 2 or 3 years. So what we didn't do is we sort of start to sort of work out a bit of tax planning, a bit of a relationship piece, because any kind of situation that changes in that client situation in 6, 9, 12 months time, I'd go, Ben, here's a copy of fact find. By the way, these are some of the relationships that are changing with the client. And that's a great tool for Ben because he can just go, look, Ray's made me aware of such and such. Is there something I can add value or help you with? Is this your kids are looking for another loan? Perhaps can I add another value there? So it becomes a great relationship piece where the client has to go to one central source and you're able to help the client with an array of services.
100%. And that goes about creating that team. But ultimately, it's at the end of the day, it's up to the mortgage broker to identify these needs and say, hey, go speak to Ray, go speak to an accountant, go speak to a lawyer, whatever. And that, if anything, the way that a aggregator can help a mortgage broker as well is through those professional development initiatives. Maybe a question for you, Paul, is from a MoneyQuest group perspective, what professional development initiatives do you have in place for mortgage brokers to further educate them and help them identify these needs?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's, if you tie financial planning to broking, and one of the key lessons I learned very early on and from the financial planning practice was about that doing annual reviews. So making sure that you're constantly in contact with your clients. And I think, a lot of brokers now obviously carry out annual reviews, but I think a lot of brokers get it wrong from the perspective that they focus purely on rate. And to your point about looking at those other opportunities, I think if you sit down with a client every 12 months or thereabouts and have a discussion around, what changes have happened in their life, whether that be personal, whether it be financial, could have been an increase in income. Well, what are they actually doing with those extra funds? Are they spending it on lifestyle? They got extra funds now that they can use to, say, start building that property portfolio, or investing in shares or whatever it may be. And I think that's where the financial planning and broking worlds can work together, is very much around that annual review process. And I think that's something that's really important. And one of the key professional development tools that we teach in MoneyQuest is around, I actually run an annual review program, which provides not only the framework, so as in the tools, the templates, the scripts of what to do, but also how to position it with clients. Because a lot of brokers, when they meet with a client every 12 months, they think, oh, well, what do I talk to them about? So I've created a list of questions, and it covers off things that cross over into financial planning, into lawyers. Okay, making sure the client's insurances are up to date, making sure that, they've got a will in place, things that aren't, a broker's ultimate responsibility, but it shows to the client that you care more about not just the loan side, but them holistically. And that's where the financial planner and broker can work very closely together.
And to echo the point there, Gianni, if I look at Craig Walker's client, the client was just about to sell an investment property and get a massive CGT bill. So that was one of the conversations that we had with them to go, well, look, Ray, they're about to sell the investment property. How do we minimize the CGT? So we used some of the catch-up contribution strategies whereby they were going to pay $120,000 each of the capital gain tax to negate that down to $10,000. Now that built up a massive advocacy piece for a client to go, oh my God, this is fantastic.
100%.
And all of a sudden now they're talking to other clients going, this is how we did it, and Craig helped us do it.
Ultimately, I think at the end of the day, the client will feel more secure knowing that they have more eyes on their financial situation. I think they're going to feel a little bit protected, if anything. Ryker's looking after MoneyQuest are looking after me. So they have that level of, well, we call it the sleep at night test in financial planning circles. Do you have that security to know that somebody's looking after you as well? Julian, I wanted to bring it up a level. There's been a lot of innovation in technology lately. How do you see that fitting into mortgage broking and the mortgage broking space, in particular MoneyQuest?
Look, it is interesting. Look, technologies evolve over time and we adapt. We're a very adaptive industry, very resilient industry. Obviously, open banking is the next sort of big thing for us, and using AI and various other technologies. And I think the focus has got to be always on how can we leverage these to enhance the customer experience. It's focusing always on the customer, and obviously as a byproduct, efficiencies within the brokerages as well. Yeah, what would you say, Paul? It's an interesting.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think you look at AI and for example, a lot of people want to do social media posts regularly. Well, you just need to put some great prompts into say ChatGPT as an example, which obviously enables them then to produce some content. I use a program where I record my Zooms and it does transcriptions, and then I can cut that up if I want to, or I also can share that. When I do some coaching with our brokers within our group, I can provide them with a summary of what was discussed, automatically produced by AI. So from an efficiency point of view, that now saves me 30 minutes, where before that technology was available, I'd actually produce a summary myself and then have to email it out. So I think it's just using the technology to enable you to get more done, essentially, be more productive, and to make it easier, like what Julian said, for your client. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're running a mortgage business, everything that you do should come back to fundamentally the client in the center, right? And any improvement or change that you make, you have to think about what impact will that have on the client. But I also add to that, if you've got staff, what impact will it have to your staff? Because I think that's where technology can help. And I know that in our business, we, a few years before we sold our business, we brought in a workflow tool, which had a massive benefit in our business. And within 3 years, we actually doubled our business because we had this workflow tool that enabled our staff to be more efficient, for us to have a better oversight on our business, on what was happening in the business. And so productivity increased without having to increase our resources, twofold.
You're right, Paul. I mean, like, AI ultimately is an enabler of systemizing your processes and creating efficiency. But ultimately, you want to spend that time with the client face-to-face, building rapport, getting to know them, getting to know about their family. So, look, I think not only that, it allows you to see more clients.
Yeah, 100%. Like AI is just a tool. There's been a lot of work, a lot of people speaking about AI. Ultimately, it's just a tool. And if I gave you a tool that, reduced some of your administration requirements, decreased turnaround times, meant that you were doing less and ultimately servicing your client more, then why, regardless of if it's AI or anything, why wouldn't you take up that tool? Because at the end of the day, I feel the client only really wants 2 or 3 things out of you. Help me achieve my goals, educate me, and minimize my risks, really. So if you can reduce some of the burdens that you have around administration and compliance and whatever, and then maximize that, and then even reinvest it into seeing more clients, or why wouldn't you take it up, if anything, in an ethical and conservative, risk-averse manner as well?
Absolutely. And in addition to that, spending time with your planners and getting to deeper relationships with your referral partners.
I think mostly around building the array of services. Yeah. So I think what we've seen from one of the brokers, they were attracting clients from legal side, even though they weren't doing the legal side, but they started to speak. They've sort of built up a team around the legal, around the financial planning, around the tax side. Now, what it enabled them to sort of get clients from all these different aspects, and they were still doing home loans for some of these clients, which allowed them to sort of build their productivity by another 18%.
Yeah, and they've been able to reinvest that time saving into marketing or referral partnerships or whatever it is to grow their business as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Julian, Paul, look, I really appreciate your time. If anybody wants to know what's coming up for MoneyQuest in the near future, what can we tell them is in store?
What do we say?
I think, the group's just continuing to grow. Yeah. We're doing more and more for our members all the time. The peer-to-peer learning that we obviously spoke about a little bit earlier, I think that is such a fundamental part of learning. And, one of the big things, one of our very successful brokers at our conference that we recently had, his goal was to actually get around to the successful brokers. So he was asking, ask who are the people that he can learn from, and it just shows to me that peer-to-peer learning is so important, and we'll just continue to evolve that. With our franchise business, we have tribes, which we run every week. So we've got small groups of our members from around the country that come together, that run their own sessions. So they share and compare. And I think that's what MoneyQuest will continue to grow as a group, organically, but also through acquisition.
Yeah. And I have to congratulate you guys as well on the success of the MoneyQuest conference. And it was a great opportunity, as you mentioned, to learn from each other around what successes or what issues that you're finding, or even learn from each other's mistakes as well. So to go along the themes of mentorship, it was a great outcome and a great success. So well done. I just hope Ray was well behaved.
He was fantastic. The one thing about these events, again, when brokers work from home, getting together, yes, sure, people have some fun, but they generally learn from each other. Yes, there's great content, great culture, and they're very enjoyable events. So
awesome.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, gents. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as personal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional or expert in the relevant field for personalised advice tailored to your specific situation.
If you enjoy the content we bring you on the Wealth Guide podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and share with your community. Let's grow this community together and make financial literacy accessible to all.